Hello. We're so excited for everyone to be here. So sorry that we're late. We're having some technical difficulties this evening.
We are, but it's going to be okay.
It is. It is. Oh gosh, you're hearing my feedback. You're hearing my feedback.
All right, turn that off, Leslie.
Yes, I'm trying to share on my page and in our what is it called? In our event. Yes, got to do that. So
we're going to go ahead and start, and you can share while I'm talking to Francesca. Everyone, welcome Francesca to our show tonight. And Leslie, why don't you tell everyone how you met Francesca?
So Francesca and I met at DePauw. What was it, back in June? Yes, so we met back in June. She was one of the featured speakers at our alumni convocation. Yeah, you talking about me, MJ? But anyway, she was one of our featured speakers, and I remember meeting her beforehand, and I didn't really know what to expect, and I even told her, I was like, when she started her speech, she said, we're going to talk about inclusivity and diversity. And I was like, oh no, here we go again. Someone else wanted to talk about diversity and inclusion. Is she going to know what she's talking about? And I was like, either she's going to bomb this or she's going to nail it. And I must say, Francesca, she nailed it. Huh? What did you say?
Yeah, what do you mean by
like not do so well? Like, let's be blunt, since we're transparent, a white woman talking about diversity and inclusion, and I was honestly scared for her. And in talking with her, she was kind of nervous herself. So yeah.
Francesca, how were you feeling during that speech, or the moments leading up to that? Like, what were your feelings?
Well, I was feeling nervous. I was feeling nervous about not reaching people. I was feeling nervous that I would actually, in my attempt to talk about losing our biases and losing our prejudices, I was going to show my biases and my prejudices. I was really afraid my whiteness was going to, be very loud and clear.
Yeah.
But I was also feeling really ready. This is important. I think that white people have not been willing to be nervous. They've not been willing to, that's a generalization. There certainly are exceptions.
Yeah.
But I felt ready. Let's be honest, I'm one tiny little itty bitty worker ant, and I don't mean to overblow anything, but somebody has to talk about it. Somebody has to say, I've been getting it wrong for a long time, and it's time to start trying to get it right.
Yeah. Well, so I appreciate first of all watching the speech that you gave at DePauw, and how Leslie embraced you afterwards. It actually gave me the warm willies afterwards, and it was kind of symbolic to me, seeing a very Black woman embrace a very white woman after she spilled her guts in front of so many people, and just that being what I feel is necessary, that needs to happen in this world, us embracing each other. So I applaud both of you for being bold and to actually showing DePauw and the alums the embrace that you guys did. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Leslie, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Francesca, go ahead.
It's just, of all the things that I might have hoped might have come out of that opportunity, those moments on stage with you were more than I could have imagined, and whatever else did or didn't or will or won't come out of that, that experience was very powerful. You were something to me in that moment that I didn't know I needed until you were there.
That's fantastic.
I don't know that I can follow that. I just knew, and I just saw you as Francesca. And I know we'll get into this in a few, but I saw you being extremely vulnerable, calling yourself, and I was like, oh my gosh, she just called herself a racist. Is she serious? Like, she just called herself a racist. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? And just being so vulnerable and talking about the prejudices and biases that you had based off of your experiences and just your upbringing. We talk about it all the time. Freedom Girls, there is healing and transparency. And the fact that you are being transparent, you not only brought healing for yourself, but you brought healing for many alumni in that room, and also just many people around the nation that did not have the opportunity to watch it, but have had the opportunity to watch it on YouTube. So we'll make sure that we do provide that link so everyone can watch that in our event page and on our page and even on our personal page, because I think it's something that every single American needs to watch and to identify with. So thank you so much, Francesca, for even being here and agreeing to do the show with us tonight. It's a very tough topic, but like you said, the discussion has to be had. We need to have the discussion outside of our quote unquote race. Like, Black people, we get together and we talk about it. Like, what are we going to do? Brown people, they get together and it's like, okay, what are we going to do? But if we talk about inclusivity, it has to be all of quote unquote us. It just can't be me, myself, and I. It has to be everyone. So, excuse me, my child is coming in the room and he's 2, but you guys can continue.
Francesca, what outside of you knowing Leslie, just give us a little tidbit about who are you, and give us maybe minutes in telling us about who you are and what life is like for you.
Sure. So I have a family. I have a husband and children. We live in the Midwest. I have worked, my professional experience has been sort of in the realm of nonprofits, writing, research and development. I'm currently trying to work up the courage to call myself a writer, because that feels like owning it just for myself and not sort of hiding behind an employer feels like a big step for me, but I'm working on embracing that. And have done other kinds of business work, but I definitely feel that writing is something that speaks to me. So I'm spending some time with that. And that's it.
Awesome. Very, very good. Let's just kind of jump into it a little bit. I'll let Leslie kind of lead the way here.
Sure.
What's next?
Yeah, so you told us about yourself. So do you think there was ever a defining moment for you when you all of a sudden like woke up and had this epiphany that Black lives really do matter, that brown lives really do matter?
Yeah. So do we have like a whole week?
We can. Let's plan that. We'll plan that.
I think that the easy answer is no. I don't know that there was one defining moment. I think that sadly, my understanding of race, of racism, of discrimination, of bias it manifested itself in me as a white savior. And I recognize that in my sister. I recognize it in my dad. It certainly was perpetuated in my schooling. The idea that while we we were proponents of social justice, and I probably got much more realistic alternative history. I mean, not the standard stuff. I got more information. I knew more. Nevertheless, that was all kind of presented as something that I could still put in a box.
Sure.
So I could still take this knowledge that maybe my peers weren't learning, but I would put it in a box. And I take my understanding of the importance of social justice and the importance of equality, but I could still kind of put it in a box. It wasn't anything that I had to challenge myself or my assumptions on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, and so while I would have liked to believe that I was kind of actively anti-racist, I don't really think I understood just how much I wasn't that. Until the last several years. And I have had the pleasure of getting involved in a pretty significant anti-bias, anti-racism movement in St. Louis, my hometown.
Very good.
I've worked with really remarkable trainers, races, all skin colors, all ethnicities, genders. Have really learned a lot about oppression and white superiority and how I perpetuate that. I've made some really important friendships with women of color, particularly. And one of those women of color is a friend of mine, and her son is living with us. And I have the honor of raising him as one of my own. So I had 4 kiddos, and now I have 5.
Yeah.
And it's just, and his living with us was kind of a gradual process, and it was very organic, and it was all a very.
Oh no.
It's all right. She's coming back, y'all. She's coming back. So I'll let you. Okay, I was just gonna say I'll let you know that Francesca, she's actually in Michigan with her family right now. She's just enjoying some time. Yes, they're on a vacation, and so she should be back here just a second. But yes, as she mentioned, she does have 4 children. She is very close friends with an African American woman, and they thought that what was best was to have him come stay with them. So I think he's been there a few years, just in prior conversations. I don't know exactly how many years, but he's been there for quite a few years, and it's just kind of helped shape her perspective of a lot. The Black Lives Matter movement, raising
a Black child
in America, which we can both attest on, which is it can be very challenging, wouldn't you say, Minia? MJ, that's your name, MJ.
I would say for me personally, I think I posted earlier about just my personal challenge, and I think she's on her way back here. My personal challenge in raising my boys in a co-parenting situation. Francesca, we were just kind of filling in while we waited for you. Talking a little bit about raising my little brown boys in America in 2 separate homes. And so during the week, they live in Chicago, in the city of Chicago, in the summertime. And then on the weekends, they're with me. And I freak out every Sunday afternoon when I have to take them home to their dad. Yeah.
And why is that, MJ? Why do you freak out?
I freak out because they live in an okay neighborhood in Chicago, but my children literally know the sounds of gunshots. They hear sirens all day, and they are around more death than they are in the suburbs of Chicago. And so I freak out because little kids get shut all the time, and my kids are not allowed to go outside
Mm-hmm.
and play because it's not safe, and that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Looks like we have a question from our audience. They want to know, could you describe your experience in being a racist? What do you notice about yourself and your actions to make you realize that you were active in those characteristics? Will you be able to answer that for us, Francesca?
Sure. I think that I am willing to call myself a racist. First, I guess I want to say that to me, it's not worth the energy to defend myself. I mean, it's almost as though I'm willing to say anything I need to say to kind of raise awareness and raise interest, or not interest, that's not the right word. But I'm just not, to me, I say this to my friends sometimes, you know, you can spend the energy defending yourself to me, or you can kind of spend the energy changing things.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that it's worth it to me. But I do still believe that the way I was steeped in white superiority, I mentioned my experiences as a student in school, the way I was taught to believe that I had something of value that I could bring to people who needed it, with the implication being that there's somehow a value difference there.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that's hard. I grew up, I had interracial friendships, but not many.
Sure.
And I think I think of I was sort of coming of age in Chicago in the 80s and the war on drugs. And I think about the media that I saw and the messaging that I heard. And I think that all of that really stuck with me. And I had nothing to counterbalance it.
Sure.
So I had no one reminding me that this was an intentional destruction of communities, that the war on drug was. I had no one pointing out to me the systemic inequities in our communities. And so because of that, I just kind of swallowed it. Even if I thought that I could make it better, it wasn't so much that I wanted to run from it, as much as I didn't understand that my whiteness was a part of the puzzle. It was like I was just myself, and then there were all these other things that I had to address, but I never saw how I fit into that until I started to realize that I did fit into it, and I fit into it pretty negatively and pretty horribly, and I needed to change that. Do you think that answered the question? Because I don't want to not answer the question.
I think it answers the question.
I think it does. Yes, I think it does. I do think it does. I kind of want to touch on, I kind of want to go back, and I don't want to neglect what MJ was feeling, or in what she was saying about dropping off her children in Chicago. And I used to live in Chicago myself, and my daughter, she'd be like, I want to go outside. I'm like, you're not going outside. There's been many a times I'd waking up breastfeeding, hearing gunshots. I've seen bodies laying on the ground, covered in sheets. I've seen so much. I've been exposed to so much living in the city of Chicago. I don't want to, what's the word? I don't want to discourage people, downplay. I don't want to downplay it. I don't want to discourage people from living here either. But I don't want to necessarily like talk bad about, quote unquote, talk bad about the city, but I also don't want to falsify what I experienced. I would be scared to come home. If I saw people walking down the street, I would wait until they passed my car in order for me to get out of the car. My question is, so I know like the easy answer is, you know, what do we do to protect our children? What do we do to protect ourselves from these types of scenarios? Is the answer to simply move out of the city into a different city or to a different neighborhood? Or is it something that has to do with the government or resources? Is it the fact that the government doesn't think that Black Lives Matter, and so they just don't care and they just do whatever they do? So, Francesca, I just wanted to get your take on that. What do you think? It's a heavy question, I know.
I think we need an overhaul. I think that we need governments, and I think it's going to happen at the local levels to start. We need governments to step up and say that segregation is not okay, that segregation, as I understand the studies that I've read, results almost 100% in lower outcomes for people of color as opposed to white people. We need local governments to do better with integrating schools, even though there's federal mandates that say they shouldn't. I think we need to figure out ways around that. I think overall, education is horribly underappreciated, and I don't know clearly how to change that. I mean, I think we value in this society, we value business thinkers and to some degree medicine, and teachers are way down the ladder. And then when you combine that with systemic bias and inequitable educational experiences, you really have a mess. Prior to the last several weeks, I might have sort of cited Minneapolis as a nice example of a place that was working to actively integrate its schools and getting some better outcomes as a result. But now Minneapolis has a lot of other problems. So I don't know. I was reading about the town in Alabama that's almost 50-50. I don't know if you've seen this, African Americans and white. And the Confederate statue. Did you follow any of this?
I missed that.
So the statue is an interesting story, but really what struck me was how this town was. It was like 48 to 51%. Very close. City council was split evenly, and mayors have been both white and black over the years, and just kind of a fascinating story, but still segregated. And so, I think that it can happen, but there are a lot of hurdles, and obviously resources are a huge part of it. I mean, who has the money? Where is the money going? And with white people in power at all levels, I think that's tricky. I think we need to have more people of color in municipal offices, on local school boards, in state rep offices. Yeah.
I agree, Francesca. I know that there is a lack of people of color, period. Brown, black, mocha colored, just lacking in government. And it is a scary time for African American and for Hispanics and for all non-Caucasian, it seems like, especially in education. There are some local summits and folks trying to, make a difference. But I even feel like on a local level that it may not be the impact that we need. And I'm not sure why I feel that way, because it's just so small and the world is so big. And the fact of the matter is, like, Chicago isn't even in the top 25 of most dangerous cities in the world. And Rockford is really up there, Rockford, Illinois, and but it's just so bad, and it kind of breaks, not kind of, it does break my heart, and I know that it breaks yours as well, just with the lack of power from all angles. So I know that we wanted to kind of tap into, you mentioned earlier about your interracial relationships, and that, you know, you're raising one of your friend's sons. Do your other children, do they have interracial relationship? Does your extra love baby, does he have interracial relationships? And how does that change your dynamic in your home? How has that changed?
Sure. Well, it's made it better for sure. So actually, my two sons were friends. That's how we all met. So they had gotten to know each other when they were about 11.
Okay.
And Jack, oh, that's my son. He came home. He had switched to a public school. He'd been in a smaller Montessori school, and he switched to a public school, and he was very excited about the friends he was making.
Yeah.
And he was telling us names and telling us what they did, and he was really excited for them to come over, and
she's gonna come back.
Yes, she is. So while she's coming back, yes, why don't we talk about the statistics? Let's talk about the statistics that she shared at DePauw during her speech, because I found this to be, I won't say necessarily surprising, but it was striking and disappointing. This is just her being a white woman comparing herself to her black neighbor. She said that during her life expectancy, she could live to be age 91 years old. Her black neighbor would barely reach an average of 60 years old. Grammar check, if she and her black neighbor smoked marijuana, weed, equally as often, her black neighbor is 3.7 times more likely to be arrested, 3 times more likely to die of a stroke, that's healthcare, 3.5 more times likely to be stopped by the police. That's police brutality. Sean Johnson just asked about that, so we're going to get to that question when she comes back. And then 4 times more likely to die of pregnancy complications. Again, that's healthcare. Yeah. So if you think about this, and then of course today, Obamacare was what? I guess it's gone. It's gone. 20 million Americans, 20 million or 20 billion Americans are going to lose their health care. So, Francesca, while you were gone, we shared the statistics that you shared during your speech at DePauw. Are you there? I think you're frozen.
I think so.
Yeah, I think she's frozen. So, but MJ, what do you think about those statistics while she's coming back? What do you think about those statistics, especially those pertaining to healthcare?
Well, I mean, it just...
You can actually say all of it. Let's just go all of it. Let's go all of it.
All right. So I get a little frustrated for those folks who assume that the Obamacare were for the poor black people who couldn't afford it, who couldn't afford insurance. I currently have a girlfriend who could afford insurance and saved up, 6 months to a year worth of her salary, but has been unemployed for a little while now. And because the Obamacare is no longer an issue, she's had to spend this months and months of savings on surgeries that she needed to have. And it would be assumed that, African Americans wouldn't be able to do that or have to have Obamacare because they're Black. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily true. She made really good money, but now her savings is almost tapped out from having to pay for surgeries, not just a doctor's visit or medication, but for surgery. And so the fact of the matter is that it sucks. The whole comparison of whites and Blacks and the life expectancy is kind of ridiculous. Hey, Francesca. Can you hear me?
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We understand you're in a nice, private, relaxing location that we are jealous of. So you're good. You're good. You're good. No problem. So we were just talking, like I said, we were discussing the statistics. Expectancy is 90. Your Black, or I'm sorry, 91. Your Black neighbor, hers is 60. She's 3.7 times more likely to be arrested as a result of smoking marijuana. If you were both smoking it frequently, 3 times more likely to die of a stroke, 3.5 times more likely to be stopped by the police, and 4 times more likely to die of pregnancy complications. A lot of that pertains to healthcare, and just thinking about like Obamacare and what has happened today, and that there's many millions and millions and millions of Americans that are going to be losing healthcare, and who that affects. So how do we improve upon this? And if you want to go back to, I forget what we were even talking about before you left. Do you recall?
I was talking about my children's interracial friendships.
Oh, yes. But so let's go. We can go back to your interracial relationships, and then we'll go back to the statistics. And then we also have some questions from the audience that we certainly want to make sure that they get to ask.
Sure. No, I think it's very important to me that my children have interracial friendships. I think that it's important to me that they understand that there are multiple experiences in this world, and theirs is not the only way, nor is it the one right way. It's just a way. And I want them to have as many diverse experiences as they can. And, I worry all the time with their friends that I'm like the geeky old white lady. And so I try to make sure that everyone is comfortable talking about race in our house. That if anyone in our home ever is made to feel anything, then I hope that they will tell me. Because we have a big family, and we have a lot of adults in and out of the house, and a lot of children, and I take it very seriously that if there are ever microaggressions in my home, I have asked them to please be willing to come talk to me, and because I want them to know that I take it really seriously. I want my home to be a very safe place for all of my friends.
Absolutely. Very good. Well, I'm glad that you have such an open door policy in your home, especially with having a extra baby to love in your home that has a little mocha sprinkled on him. It's good that you are able to talk with your children. It's actually kind of a good segue into one of our audience members' questions about having a conversation about, what is systematic racism, and have you had that conversation with your kids?
Yes. We do have these conversations a lot. One of the things that sort of anti-bias training encourages us to do is to talk about what you might. It's the 3 F's. What I felt in the past, what I felt about race relations, what I found out,
Mm-hmm.
and not what I feel now. And so I feel like I'm constantly changing my 3 Fs, right? Like every new piece of information, every experience I have, every person I meet, I'm sort of constantly finding new things, and then I'm therefore feeling new ways. And I try to just talk to my family about that as much as I can. They're willing. I'm lucky that they have other people in their life who reinforce that with them, who sort of reinforce the importance of not falling into the trap of white superiority. So I'm grateful for that.
Good.
You know, I'm not the lone voice talking to them about this.
Good. Very good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So one of our other viewers has asked, saying, Blacks have been marching for years. What other avenues can we look to help with some of the problems plaguing the Black community, especially police brutality? And that really dives back into all of those statistics that we brought up as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I missed one of the nouns. Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. No worries. Black Americans have been marching for years. What other avenues can we look to help with some of the problems plaguing the Black community, especially police brutality?
So, obviously, I'm not I'm not an expert on police forces, but I am really upset, that's not even a strong enough word, but concerned with the fact that there's so little de-escalation on police forces, the training.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that working on implicit biases is important for sure. But I also think that there needs to be as much training or more training time spent on de-escalation techniques as there is on everything else that they train them, right? I mean, it's tragic. It's horrible. It's all kinds of I don't know. I say this a lot. I've run out of words. The language is no longer enough. And I realize that I don't need to convince anyone of the terror and the horror that is happening. But when I really stop to think about the seconds that are passing, right? That there's no. I mean, I think de-escalation techniques. I think more work on implicit biases and how that plays out. Harvard is doing a lot of work there, which I think can have a lot of really good implications for police departments. Community policing. I have some friends in St. Louis who are involved with a really wonderful organization called Forward Through Ferguson, and they have a long list of recommendations that they are working towards in the city of St. Louis, and community policing is one of them. Better dialogue, as trite as that sounds.
Yeah.
I don't have a perfect answer. I know it does have to change, and we need to change it.
Yeah.
I think it's a loaded question, and so just hearing your perspective of what the changes should be or need to be is important for you to kind of chew on and for us to hear as we see it and feel it as mothers. The reality of the brutality that really happens, and it's senseless. There, as you said, there is no adjective. There is no really a good word to define the the demonic force that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think it's awful and it's cruel and it's evil. And I wonder, I would love to sit in on training of the policemen and hear what they hear. And hear even if there's any fear for them when they go out into the street. So,
and I think it's so much. It's training of police officers. It's also the media. It's also what we hear in our schools. It's so much, because I'm a Black woman, and I told you that when I lived in Chicago, I was scared of the Black boys walking down the street. Why? They look like me.
Yeah.
And I'm Black. So why am I scared of them? Is it because of like what I have? Is it because of my surroundings and what I've heard, like the gunshots and the bodies that I've seen? Or is it because of what continues to play on the news or what's on social media and in our songs? What is it? Like, Francesca talks about, like, we all have these prejudices and biases.
Yeah. I think, Francesca, you mentioned in your speech, too, at DePauw that you were just conditioned in a way. Conditioned to it. Like, you mentioned holding your purse close in an elevator. It's just a condition of the mind that possibly comes from years of, I don't know, racism or years of assumption. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, so there's obviously a lot of shame involved in this, and it's painful, not as painful as other things, but and I think that's what really gets me, is that if even it wasn't as though, I talked to some of my friends who grew up in very small towns, very white. They never knew anything other than Christopher Columbus and the Declaration of Independence, and boom, all of a sudden here we are today, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really have an excuse. I mean, I think that's what kind of is so shocking to me, is that I was aware of the historical truth of our country. I was aware of the way Chicago was horribly segregated and horribly inequitable. And I still didn't see the way I was absorbing these messages. And so I think that for people who have had no exposure to an alternate reality, they are just so all in being white. They don't even know, they don't even recognize themselves as white. They just recognize themselves as like normal.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
It's a very hard subject matter, and I'm going to be transparent again because that's what we are. But even today, I was in Walgreens. I was in suburbia, Chicago. However, I was in I got asked for money before I walked into the store, which is normal. I just don't pull out money when I'm by myself in my purse. I just don't do that. But I found myself, because I can carry my purse like this, or I can put it around my body, and I was carrying it like this on the way in, but on the way out, I put it around my body and I walked out the door.
Yeah, I just think that we're conditioned to live in fear, not just concerning racism, but concerning everything. I think that unfortunately our society has been conditioned to live in fear because of what the media puts out there, and because of what, for African Americans, I know that for things that my parents went through in the 60s and the 70s. So I have generational fear, and then we have media fear. So I know that you, Francesca, mentioned that as well, just kind of growing up with a certain idea of being white and white privilege even. So, which is another topic for another day.
It is. And I think we should talk about it because, again, Francesca, I mean, I think I grew up probably in, well, I don't know, maybe we didn't, because we didn't really talk about your background. But I think we need to have you back on another show. That's what I think. Because I'm not even going to get into my situation. Yeah, I think we need to have you come back, Francesca.
I think she left without us.
She left. She's like, oh, we're done for tonight. So,
guys, I really do appreciate all of the questions tonight for Francesca. And let's just keep in mind that, you know, she's not an expert and neither are we. Right. We are literally just here to kind of open the eyes of everyone, even ourselves, that, you know, yes, we all know that it's an issue, but she has a special gift in her life that has opened up her eyes to the fact that hashtag Black Lives Do Matter by raising a Black child in her home and by experiencing a heightened percentage of African Americans at her alma mater with Leslie. So we definitely appreciate the fact that Francesca's new perspective and her new eyes have been opened to the reality that it's more than just a hashtag, that Black lives do matter. And yeah. Welcome back, Francesca.
Yes. Is there anything that you want to share before you wrap up the show or wrap up this evening, Francesca?
Well, I'm very grateful for the chance to chat, and but I also, you know, I want to point out that how I see my piece in this puzzle is to talk to other white people. I think I don't want to come off. I don't want to try to represent myself as an expert in socio-political, you know, situations or African American history, but I see that I see that white people need someone to help them figure it out, to show them it's just not okay. And we can all be better people for it. I mean, I think not that the scales are equal by any stretch, but I think, you know, white people are damaged by racism as well. Because I look back and I think about what I lost. Now, again, not even for a second trying to compare the damage there, but I think that it's true that when we deny humanity, we deny ourselves. And I think, yeah, other way.
That's powerful, like that. When we deny humanity, we deny ourselves.
That's deep. It's really deep. And just to close, what are you doing in your community to be a change agent, to talk to? Because I know you mentioned, you know, talking with other white people about Black Lives Matter, just about inclusivity and diversity. What are you doing in your community? And this is actually a question from our audience as well. Mr. Rollins Smith, he happens to be related to me. Go ahead.
Hello. So let's see. We have a movie club and a book club. I am trying to set up anti-bias, anti-racism trainings through our district schools. So that our schools go K through 12. focusing especially on the middle school and high school, which is where my kiddos are, trying to talk to the principals of those schools and the superintendent. You know, just trying to participate in Black Lives Matter in St. Louis. There's a fairly active group chapter in St. Louis that I try to support as much as possible. Money talks. So even when I talk to my friends, even if they can't participate, I suggest a donation. I'm going to give another plug for Forward Through Ferguson because they're doing such great work in St. Louis. I try to support them. I try to encourage my friends to support them. And I just keep talking about it, even when people are sick of me talking about it. I just keep talking. I just saw a note come through about Hidden Figures, which was a phenomenal movie. And it came to Edwardsville. It was powerful.
Yeah.
What was the name of the Ferguson group? Because I want to make sure that I find that.
Forward Through Ferguson. And they came out. There was a Ferguson commission appointed by Governor Nixon. And this nonprofit grew out of that commission.
Very good.
Okay, so we want to make sure that we include that. We're going to post that organization in this dialogue or in the comments. I also want to make sure that we do share the talk that brought you here because I think it is so very powerful. And to our audience, for all of those listening, just imagine being a room full of mostly elderly or older, I should say older. Well, they were probably in their 70s?
A little seasoned, that's all.
Seasoned, older. Sorry if I but they're probably in their 70s. It was their 50th class reunion at DePauw University in the rural town of Greencastle, Indiana. So you can imagine what the room looked like. There was one Black male who attended his 50th class reunion. Everyone else in the class was Caucasian.
Oh my God.
So just imagine Francesca delivering this speech to that was the majority of people that she spoke to, and to her surprise, she got a standing ovation.
Yes, she did.
She did.
I would have had to wear a Depends. I would have peed my pants.
A friend of mine asked if I wanted a shot. That was what she said to me before I went on. She's like, I said, it's 10 in the morning. She said, just one shot. It'll help. I will say very quickly, I think I've mentioned this to Leslie and MJ, maybe to you too, when we spoke on the phone, but in spite of what I knew I was going to talk about, how strongly I was reminded after I finished speaking and all of these older individuals.
Oh no, this is powerful. So while she's coming, thank you so much, Sierra. That's powerful. She said she deserves it. I want my white friends to understand this. And yeah, I really would love the fact if everyone could come together in one room and just be okay. One thing that I continue to hear is like, at the end of the day, we all bleed the same color blood. But at night, when we turn off the lights, all you see is blackness.
That's all you see.
Literally the color black. Not this color black, because really I'm brown, according to my daughter. But literally, when we turn off the lights, we can't see color. But when we have the lights on, we do see color. And it's okay to see color.
Yeah, I hear
people saying, oh my gosh, I don't see color. Oh my gosh, my kids don't see black. My kids don't see. I want y'all to see I'm black. I love my color. I haven't always loved my color. But embracing the differences, because God made us all unique, but we're all wonderfully made. But please tell me what you were going to say, Francesca, because that was so powerful what you were going into before we close.
Oh, I would just how it was such a strong reminder for me to stop any assumptions. To stop assuming that because people are too old or because they're too white or because they're too set in their ways. I mean, it was just a very powerful reminder to me to always start from neutral. And I think had you asked me before I spoke, hey, are you feeling pretty biased against these elderly people? I would have said, no, of course not. But yet I realized once I was getting their feedback that I was surprised. And that proved to me that I had been carrying that bias and how we're never, I don't know that I'm ever going to get it right. I just know that I have to never stop trying to get it right. Right.
Well, that's great. That. So, Francesca, will you be on another show? I think what we're going to do, we'll pre-record a show.
Wi-Fi? I'm so sorry.
No, it's totally okay. You'll have to let us know when you're in Chicago the next time, and we can pre-record a show.
I would love to do it in person. I think that would be fabulous.
That would be fantabulous, Leslie.
Fan-freaking-tabulous. Yes.
Well, everyone, we definitely appreciate you guys. Francesca, thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your transparency and your honesty and willingness to be on Freedom Girls Talk with your brown sisters. We appreciate it. And thank you to our audience for being so willing to stay tuned even through some technical difficulties. We appreciate your commitment to our ministry and to who and what Freedom Girls Talk is. So thank you guys. And as Leslie was saying, be sure to share this with your Black friends, with your white friends, with your Spanish friends. Share, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We could definitely use a couple more of you guys out there. And we thank you guys. And just remember that Leslie and I we're just
two women,
two wives,
two moms,
with one mission, and that is to bring light to Black Lives Matter. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, wait. So next week, we're going to have a lighter show for you. It's back to school time. We have some very, very special guests. They are little people. That is your clue. They're little people, and they're going to be on the show with us next week. But yes, do not allow the fact that we are about to disconnect to stop this conversation. Keep it going right here on our page, and we would love just to keep chatting with you. And then, of course, we'll let you know when Francesca's back. So thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and on Facebook, and we'll see you next week as we have a back to school special. See you later, guys and gals.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.